So you went to a car show or saw some cars on Instagram and you saw a bunch of pie cuts everywhere. And now you've decided that you want to try to do them yourself. You went out and looked for pre-cut pie cuts and you found out that 6 of them is $50. So you're trying to find a video that shows you how to do it. Now, I looked for a video that showed me how to do it a while ago and it was hard to find a video. Hopefully this video finds you and you can figure out how to do pie cuts. We did a tutorial on a bandsaw that we did a review on. The bandsaw worked out great. I'm gonna be using a cold cutting saw on this one. Price difference, but both of them will get the job done. And in the video, I'm going to show you how to make pie cuts at your house. And they might not be 100% perfect, depends on what tools you got, but this will get you there. So now you have your pipe of choice. This is a 4-inch aluminum pipe. And first thing we gotta do is mark a line on one side to the other side. I've already been using this pipe for pie cut, so you can see I have this line and then on the other side I have the other line, but I'll show you how to do that. So essentially you grab some tape and you wrap it around the pipe and then you put one mark on the tape, but you mark 2 sides of the tape. I'll show you. So around the edge, try to get it as straight as possible. It makes it easy for coming around the other side and redoing it. So you do want it to be slightly off because when it overlaps, that's where you want to mark it. So we're going to do the one mark on 2 sides of the tape. Peel that off. And then you're going to measure the distance and halve it. What are we looking at here? 33.1 centimeters, which, because we have it on the one over here, it's 32.1. So then we got 16 and a half. So there's our marks. We have the one in the center. Now we put the tape back on. And that will give us our sides. So now we have a mark on either side of the pipe. Next step is to make it a straight line. So we want to mark down the pipe, and this will give us our set point for each time we make a cut. Now that we have our lines cut or marked, the next thing in a pie cut is to figure out what angle you're going to have to set your cutting device, whatever the hell you use. So the easiest way to figure out the angle of a pie cut you want is essentially the pie cut, you know, the distance you want to do. So we'll do 90 degrees because that's easy. And so in the 90 degrees, how many pie cuts do you want? I'd say the norm is 6. So you take 90, divide it by 6, and that gives you the angle in between the pie cuts. Now, since the pie cuts have an angle on one pie cut and an angle on the other pie cut and they're meeting, you actually have to divide that by 2. So that's the angle we need to cut these pie cuts at. So say you had, you know, 90 degrees and you wanted to do 10 pie cuts in the 90 degree turn. So you would just divide it by 10 and then divide that by 2. And that's 4.5 degrees. And that will give you 10 pie cuts in the 90 degree interval. So setting this up, it's always good to have something to check your angle. I'm gonna use this, it's kind of crude, but you can get any angle device, any angle finder that you can get to line up where the pipe is gonna be and your saw. So let me set that to 7.5 because we're gonna do the 6 pie cuts in 90 degrees. And granted, you can cut 100 of these things and just I don't know, make a snake. So all saws have like an angle thing on their little back plate, but I don't really trust it that much. If you trust it, that's cool. Carry on. At least as long as you have it set similar, it'll be similar. So essentially we're going to set this so that the saw comes down and we can see what angle we might be at. So that looks like, it looks pretty close to 7.5. Might do a tiny bit less, it might have been at 8. Yeah, that looks better. Granted, with a different angle finder, it might be a lot easier because you could just have it bent and the blade flat and then butt up against each other. But I don't have that, and granted, well, this isn't NASA. I ain't trying to be perfect. All right, so the next step that I do, I put tape on this edge because we're going to mark where that line is. That way when we need to flip to the other side, we just line up the line on the pipe with the mark on the clamp. So you may have noticed we moved locations. We have a DIY auto shop, so not only do we work on cars, but we also let people come here and do their own stuff, as Green Challenger and Lincoln guys are taken care of right now. But back to this. So as we're here, right, I have the lines lined up for this side of the tube. I'm not sure how good it shows up on camera, but they're there. And then on the back side, so this is kind of the point where it gets into your creative niche. So we need to have a standard so that we know how far each pie cut goes. That way they're as close to the exact same cut as possible. Because then you're just gonna get into like, either you cut too little or you cut too much and now it's a really thick piece. So we have to figure that out. On this one, I have a piece of tape back here because this will not move. The clamp on this side kind of wiggles, you know, back and forth. So it's not a great standard. With this one, I have a little mark on the pipe, eyeballed center with my mark there. So now that I have that mark, and I flipped it over and I did one in the exact same spot on the other side. So I have a point to start on both sides. Now, take it out again. I know it's kind of a lengthy process to get started, but trust me, it goes easy once it's all done. So now we'll take that cut or that mark and we're going to measure up from it, or down, however you want to look at it, a certain amount, and we're gonna like do ticks as we go down so we can line it up with that. So we got a few marks there. And if you're wondering, I'm doing about 3/4 of an inch on this one, so they'll be really tight pie cuts. And since I'm doing it this way, it won't be an exact size pie cut, but we'll be close. All right. So we got one mark lined up. Now we move this to line up the other mark. Back there. Tighten and cut. Spin, line up our mark. that's the gist of how you get pie cuts. So doing this and practicing, you're going to be able to make pie cuts. You'll figure out what sizing you need for whatever pipe you have. I'm going to show you pie cuts that I don't rush on and what I've been working on. So we'll go out and check that out. So this is an intake that I'm making for this truck. And as you can see, I was a little more consistent on how thick the pie cuts were. But with the same process that I just showed you, this is the end result.